New York. Unique New York. Oh, LinkedIn didn't work again. Stupid LinkedIn. Yeah, I want to remove it. Remove it. That's fine. Silly LinkedIn. Oh, I think we're live with the other guys. All right. Sorry, guys, if you were listening in on that. We are here with Rowan, Minnion. I'm sure you love the Minnion movie, Rowan. Yes, you get that all the
time, especially now I've got a son. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Minnion, spelled with two N's, though. I think the movie is one N in the middle there. So we knew each other in the early days of the Wild West of CrossFit, so to speak. I was working with Reverie, which is a sleep system company. And Rowan, you are a sleep researcher, sleep scientist. Tell us a little about that, your recollection of your first impressions of me. No.
Who was that extraordinary handsome man over there selling mattresses? Yeah, no, it was 2012 CrossFit Games, I believe. And it was our venture. I run Blonyx Biosciences now, a sports supplement brand. And this was our first venture into the CrossFit market. And I just discovered CrossFit at that time. So wide-eyed walking around the kind of stadium and what was a bit like a Moroccan bazaar, the way that the vendor village was back then. And we had our first vendor booth. It was like us, Pure Farmer at the time, and then Progenics. Yes. And we were the only three supplement brands that were there, I think, other than the main sponsors that were GNC. Not many people know that GNC sponsored the CrossFit Games.
Was it that year?
It was that year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was unreal. So there you were. I remember just walking around and getting to know people, and I thought, sleep, and got into that discussion with you, the sleep background, and here we are now.
Yeah. A few years later, CrossFit has changed a bit. A lot of change going on there. We don't need to dive too deep into that. I do want to touch on sleep. So are you, again, your primary company, and you were talking about, we'll touch on, so three main points. And by the way, Rowan, I don't know if you noticed, the camera for StreamYard here where we are is kind of backwards. So if you haven't noticed that already, when you go to like touch your left, it's a little confusing. Anyway. But anyway, 3 points, 3%. My whole thing is get 1% better today. So we're going for three things because we try to put out episodes twice a week or so. So the three things we're going to touch on is purpose, because you guys are going through a kind of company branding, re-investigation of your purpose, which is awesome. And I think is vital to talk about the concept and kind of where you are on that. Supplements, obviously, because that's what you guys do. And then sleep, which is where, again, we started. So let's start there. So at this point, are you guys incorporating some of the sleep stuff, how the supplements affect the sleep? Are you, I got my Whoop here. Are you guys doing any research with that? Is that just something, like you said, a little more in the past, and it's just something you're kind of still excited about?
Yeah, it's a little in the past for me. I basically spent 2 years doing a PhD in sleep medicine. That was what it was. So I was very specific about what I looked into, and it was the medical side. It was sleep apnea at the time, but kind of to make ends meet on the finances, I actually ran some of the clinical labs that they had there, as well as I could do all the technical stuff there, kind of thing. So it's more of a passion project for me right now. I think once you know a lot of the basics of sleep, and there's some really great fundamental understanding of sleep that will help you in performance and help you live a better life and all that kind of stuff. And I just make use of it now. I make use of my learning. People talk about prioritization of sleep, and especially if you're an athlete. And it's a bit of a cliche now, but it's like, but how do you actually do that? And there are ways. So I just apply it now more for myself. And when I'm talking with, a lot of the athletes that we support and, work with us, that kind of thing, and that kind of stuff. But it's more of a pet project now.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, with my clients that I work with online around the world, especially with this whole global pandemic, I focus on the 5 pillars of health. So with my background as a physical therapist, again, I was working with the sleep company back in the day. My first Instagram name, I think, was Sleep Doctor. There is a couple other sleep doctors out there now, but I've since also moved away from that. And I think, to your point, a lot of the stuff is kind of there. There are definitely things we're going to learn more and more, especially as it applies to different populations, different scenarios. But that sleep hygiene concept seems to be the same, like 5 or 6 concepts of, have as little light as possible, have a little bit of a routine. And I just heard you talking on the Conquer Athlete podcast with my old coach from CrossFit, Jason Leiden, up in Connecticut. And you guys were touching on a few of those sleep concepts around, should we go with the season? Should we wake up with an alarm? That kind of thing. And I just actually moved. I might be selfish here and ask you your thoughts on this, because I just moved to a new home here in Colorado from Southern California. So we're changing time zones, we're changing sleep patterns. My physiology is definitely adapting to the altitude, to the dryness. I don't know if you could see that on the video. It looks like I killed a man with my knuckles. I didn't actually, for anyone legally listening. But we had really good blackout curtains in Southern California. So I have a very flexible schedule, so I can sleep in as long as I want usually and set my own schedule. So I guess my question to you is, here we have it's almost as if there's no block. There is a thing. So, but should I get the blackout curtains and just wake up? And again, I can still wake up without an alarm, or should I kind of go with the sun? I still, sleep hygiene concept of, I get outside, I get my Chuck Norris knuckles. Yes. Thank you for that comment on YouTube. So is there, I still go outside, I get the sunshine in my eyes, I try to get the circadian rhythm, I know all those concepts, but should I let my body recover? Should I let the Whoop tell me if I'm not sleeping well and play around with that? I guess, I don't know if that question even made any sense, but it was a little all over.
Yeah. My general rule with this, I think the biggest thing that makes a change in people's sleep is simply, and you touched on it earlier, is having that routine. And I think you should keep it down to the minute. You should, for me, it's getting to bed. I try and get to bed by midnight. I spend an hour reading beforehand, a bed at midnight. And I know that at 7 a.m., kids are the best for this, by the way, because there's no let up at the weekend.
Yeah.
At 7 a.m., there'll be a knock at the door, and then I'll get jumped on in the morning, and there's no way I'm going back to sleep, kind of thing. Yeah. And that cycle of exactly 7 hours is for me. I think everyone is a little bit different from that, but I've been doing that now for pretty much since my son was born. So yeah, three and a half years now. And I sleep way better now than I have for a long time. And, I think back to my student days or days when I could vary my sleep pattern, and I had way more variable sleep. So it'd be like 2 or 3 nights of great sleep and 2 or 3 nights of not so great sleep. And it's because, I would get into something and then suddenly I'm at sleep at 1 a.m. Or suddenly I'm really tired, so I pass out early and then sleep in the next day and that kind of stuff. So the biggest thing for me is getting that routine and stick to it, and making that, big part of your life. And I think that's a fundamental. If you haven't got that, I don't think the blackout curtains really matter that much. On that.
I'd like to think I got most of the other stuff dialed in. So again, for my own selfish purpose, I'd be curious if the blackout curtain versus waking up naturally with the sunrise and getting adapted to that schedule, I guess. And I know there's no perfect answer. I was just kind of throwing it out there, but yeah, I completely agree. Like having a bedtime, having that schedule, those are some of the things I encourage most of my clients to build up on. And yeah, get to bed by this time if you want to build in that hour of sleep. Reading before you go to sleep. And I assume you're reading not overly stimulating stuff. Are you going more fiction and like Harry Potter or whatever type stuff? Or
yeah, I kind of vary it. I commute down to, I live in Squamish, BC, which is about an hour out of Vancouver, the city, and our office is in Vancouver. So I kind of stick to my business, learnings on audiobooks, kind of going back and forward. And so I feel good about slipping into the trashy novels in the evening.
Guilty kind of pleasure, yeah.
Exactly. But, as everybody knows, that even books can get the heart going once in a while, kind of thing like that. Last night I was reading a great book at Shantaram, which is a fantastic book, and it just got crazy. So I'm there and I'm like, okay, I've got to go to bed now. And I was a little bit wired afterwards. So, it is like, it is like that. But in general, yeah, I find just generally not having the light coming into my eyes from looking at a screen, I really try and discipline myself with no phones before bed, which is again a cliche now, and we know we should do it, but focusing just on paper is a big difference, I think.
Yeah, totally. I like that. This will be a soft transition, maybe. Another thing I'm going to pick your brain on, especially, I don't know if you're familiar with LMNT, Rob Wolf's recent kind of venture into salt supplement, basically sodium. So I believe it's magnesium, sodium, and potassium, I think. So those three, it's meant as a electrolyte replacement. But what I was going to transition this on is sleep supplements, and then we'll get into a little bit of Blonyx, hopefully. And but yeah, one thing that, again, being out here in Colorado, dry skin, I'm like thinking I just need to hydrate my way out of this dry skin. So, you know, I'm trying to work on that and play around with that. But the interesting thing that I heard him talk about, or it was another podcast, was oh, we have a bunch of questions from Richard in the comments. We'll come back to those. But yeah, so was taking that very salty concept, it's going to calm down your cortisol right before bed, and it's going to lessen your chance or likelihood of needing to pee at night, basically. So because of the kind of water retention, if you will, to oversimplify it, I guess. But yeah, so I was wondering if you were familiar with anything like that. I've previously heard of, as the first thing you do when you wake up, because you might be sweating a bit overnight, especially if your room's not, you know, the right temperature and things like that, is to put a pinch of Himalayan sea salt, maybe some lemon juice, get your digestive going, as well as replenish some of those lost concepts of sodium, which we need in our bodies. So long question, I guess, to say, A, what do you think of that concept of that kind of salty intake right before bed? And then are there other sleep supplements, maybe melatonin, anything like that you want to talk about, of improving quality of sleep?
Yeah, so on the salt one, I think, yeah, hydration level, I mean, it's an obvious thing. Hydration level before you go to bed, it can impact you needing to go to the toilet through the night. And that's a normal thing. If you, I mean, try it down, you know, 2 liters of water and then go to sleep, you're going to be up in an hour, kind of thing. Just remember that everything slows down. And here's a thought for you. When you go into real deep sleep, that slow wave sleep, your metabolism also, you know, like slows down, and kidneys and all that kind of stuff. And so the better quality sleep you get, you shouldn't need to go to the toilet, you know, throughout the night, kind of thing. And I think for me, I would focus, yeah, the supplement's one thing, but I think that is a means to the end of kind of putting yourself in a better hydration status for sleep, being able to sleep all the way through the night. But I would also focus on, you know, tactics to get that real deep sleep. And this is something else for me. I just always assume that this is from the age of mid-20s, that I would always need to go to the toilet once throughout the night, kind of thing. But again, instead of having a kid again, where my sleep routine is dead on, and there's a number of nights now, it'll be, you know, like probably 3 out of 5 nights I'll go through and won't need to go to the toilet. And I put that down to simply, I go to deep sleep a lot quicker. I go to sleep a lot quicker, deep sleep a lot quicker. And I feel very, you know, like, what happened last night? They know when you wake up and you're like, what happened? You know, it's completely restful sleep, kind of thing. So I would focus first on that quality of sleep.
Yeah.
Now you talk about supplementation and diet maybe around getting that quality of sleep. And I talk about this on my podcast with Jason there. Cortisol is a really interesting one. And that cortisol reduction, I don't think many people know this, that it's that reduction, it kind of gradually reduced, it goes down and down and down throughout the day and hits a rock bottom point at your bedtime, basically, when you go to sleep.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Exactly. So yeah, so if you've got things on your mind, people talk about when you have that form of insomnia where there's things going on in your mind, effectively what you're doing is you're falsely increasing your level of cortisol, which will keep you awake. As one of the hormonal changes that's there. And then in the morning, one of the things that wakes you up is your cortisol level starting to climb like that. And what we then do is add to that by drinking coffee or caffeine that further gives you that cortisol bump in the morning. And that's why and people have that routine. The way I see it is, if you're doing that every morning, you're suddenly coming from a higher level. So throughout the day, you've got to get rid of more of it throughout your day. So, you know, I mean, I recommend anybody who has had a lifelong addiction to caffeine, which is pretty much the entire CrossFit community for a start, and a lot of the athletic community. And, you know, it's like, try and go cold turkey from caffeine and give your body a chance to have that normal cycle of cortisol and see what that does for you.
But don't keep training the same way. That those two adapt your training, because I've kind of played with some of those. And when I was in Dubai, actually running a gym there, toward the end of my time there. I did a month without any. I limited my caffeine for sure. I still had a little green tea, which I'm drinking a little bit now. And if anyone's watching, you probably see me drinking stuff left and right every time. And Rowan is also hydrating like crazy. But
decaf coffee.
Decaf, there you go. But yeah, I did it. I did like 30 days without any coffee. The other part of coffee that I also like play around with of wanting to cut it out is the, they talk about some of the quality with pesticides and things like that again probably aren't the best for, especially if you're getting Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, that kind of thing, or Hortons in Canada. Tim Hortons, yes. But yeah, with 1 month of that, what I noticed was it was a little bit of energy demands that I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling as energetic, and you have to come back to real food and make sure you're fueling yourself the right way with real food, I believe. And but I did notice my peripheral vision was getting better, like a little brain fog was lifting, things like that. So, but one major thing that I do with my coaching and is this N=1 experimentation. And so it's not just I'm going to try to cut out coffee for 30 days and see what happens. It's what are we looking at? It's these kind of different levels of how long are we doing it? Are we also including some green tea? How often are we doing that? What effect does that have? All these different aspects that, again, when we talked a little bit before we started about research, and that really is the ultimate research, no matter if there's 100 studies with 1 million people showing that coffee has life extending benefits, and it doesn't, there's so many factors going on there. A lot of that is correlation, and it's observational. So it's really coming down to what works for Rowan, what works for Bo, what works for Richard. I know he's commenting there. So yeah, that's kind of my take on some of that stuff. We're on the same page, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
So that takes us to other supplementation. And again, I know you guys have the HMB creatine combo, and then HMB alone, right? And then the recent product, and you guys launched it last year, I think, right at the time of the lockdown.
Yeah, we did. We launched it just before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the egg white protein.
That's right. Yeah, it's actually the first egg white protein isolate on the market. There is no other isolate, and it's through a new filtering process that we found that basically increases the protein content of. It just concentrates the protein content of egg whites, but interestingly, it takes out the sulfur and a few of the carbohydrates from the egg whites. And I remember I discovered it over in Vegas,
yes,
at this huge conference there, and it was over in the corner. There was a scientist there who came up to me and gave me this little thimble of stuff, and he's like, "Try that," and it had absolutely no flavor to it. Like, what is this? And he's like, "Yeah, this is like a good 90% protein, and we've concentrated egg whites down." And I said, "Okay, what else have you done here?" He's like, "All we've done is filter it. That's it." And straight away, my scientist and supplement brand owner kind of brain started going. It's like, this is a real food protein.
Right.
I think this is the biggest issue in the protein market. And the protein market has real potential, and whey protein has got some good research. It's a very high quality protein, but it doesn't really exist on its own in nature. And my experience with whey protein is I have some stomach issues with it. I have to time it right. For me, I don't really feel full. I feel a bit strange after eating. And the other thing is all the additives that need to go. Right. It's got a very bitter taste because it's extracted protein. And it's exactly the same with the plant-based, stuff that's coming out, Vega, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's very bitter. And what they've done is massively intensive on the chemical extraction to get that protein out of the plants.
Well, if I can jump in real quick, sorry to cut you off on that. Like, this is something that I observationally I want to throw in there. And again, I know some of the folks like James Fitzgerald at OPEX that I worked with as well, along with Jason Leiden, they have their connections. But when it comes to something like pea protein, and again, I know for some folks it's their only option, but how many peas does it take to create the 20 grams of protein? And I, again, especially when you're ultra filtering and like doing all this processing, I just can't imagine it's like, human sized, you're eating human size worth of peas. you know, and
Yeah.
and it just
That's a good
doesn't.
point.
It just does. It's, you know, sometimes, and again, there was this big, you know, not to go too down. And again, I know we get into this food, specifically vegans, vegetarians versus meat eaters. That's a whole nother aspect. But the Joe Rogan had the filmmaker from what was it, Game Changers versus Chris Kresser, kind of defending meat. And they went back and forth on a lot of what the research says, and you can keep cherry picking stuff, and it becomes this yelling match. And it's who's the louder guy, which again, in that case, it was the guy who's the MMA fighter, not Chris Kresser, who's very soft spoken for anyone who knows him. But I was bringing that up to say that, yeah, again, the pea protein has what some people have, again, I don't know how the research has panned this out or your take on it, but that it creates some leaky gut issues, because it's just so much processing and so many peas that it becomes this difficult thing for our bodies to be like, what is this?
Totally.
So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, my assumption when I first saw Vega products was it's like, oh yeah, they just got that stuff and blended it up in there and that's it. And that's what we're doing fantastic. But, you know, you look a bit closer and it's like, it's a massive, you know, chemical extraction, industrial level kind of thing to extract this stuff. So, you know, and that's one of the reasons why as a brand, I've always stayed away from protein products in general. You know, it's like other companies do a great job of it already. There's loads of them on the market. And also from an athlete perspective, I think I've always thought this, I think you should really stick to eating whole foods. I mean, it's something that my early days as a soccer player, a collegiate soccer player, that was drummed into us. It's like, yes, there are these supplement things that you can take over there, but you're on your own there.
Right.
What we say is this: come to the canteen every day and we eat the food that we give you in the food plans, because it's whole food, it's real food, and that's the biggest thing that's gonna impact you. So as soon as I saw this egg protein, I took it back and I put it in the microwave to see if it really was egg whites and that kind of stuff, and the whole thing turned into this solid block and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, and it's about, for me, it's about that. That's why we came out with that product. Like, I can't not bring this to you know, to the athletes that we serve. We effectively serve the athletes that we sell to. How can I not bring them a much kind of cleaner whole food alternative to the protein supplements they have? So, and there it is.
Yeah. Like I was mentioning, we just moved here to Colorado, and my first trip to Costco, I bought 5 dozen eggs, and the best quality they had, cage-free and organic and all that good stuff. And yeah, I've just been having hard-boiled eggs ready 6 at a time, and you know, yeah, it's just that real food is always priority number one. And then it comes back to, yeah, sometimes you're going to need a little more protein because we can only take in so much food. And what are your demands? I guess that's another cool question with your background. Something I talk about, E.C. Sinkowski with the 800-gram challenge. If you're familiar with her, Optimized Nutrition, she talks about this kind of debate on how much proteins do humans actually need per day. And again, the simple one is 0.7 grams per pound of body weight. So let's make the math easy. Say I'm a 200-pound guy. I'm a little lighter than that. But if I'm 200 pounds, 0.7 grams of protein for basic maintenance of my kind of rebuilding and everything, right? That's 140 grams of protein a day, which is not nothing. It's, you know, one egg has 6 grams of protein. So if I was just eating eggs, it'd be a lot of eggs. And I don't know, actually, sorry for all the tangents. If you haven't noticed already, it's what I do. But there was I believe it was JAMA, or one of the top medical journals in, or New England Journal of Medicine, maybe. They had a case study with a guy who ate 30 eggs a day to see if it changes cholesterol levels or anything like that. Of course, it's a single case, but yeah, he had actually better health metrics as he followed that experiment, so to speak. So, but it was in a peer reviewed and all this good stuff. So again, when we talk about research, it's an interesting thing. So, but yeah, where are you coming back to the simple question of 0.7 grams per pound of body weight for athletes? Some talk about 1 gram, depending on the goals. Obviously, CrossFit is going to be different than bodybuilder, that kind of thing. But if you can give us a quick rundown on that.
Yeah, so I've actually been looking into this recently, and it's more about the aging athlete. And this is something that's really interesting, especially as I'm now an aging athlete. But really understanding the protein intake, because as you get older, your body it manages protein differently. The scientists are kind of in 2 camps. One is that you don't absorb as much protein of the protein that you eat, so therefore you need to eat more if you're an older athlete, and this is after the age of 40, really. But the other is that your body just has it just doesn't react to having that much protein. You know, it does the muscle protein synthesis doesn't increase as much as when you're a younger athlete and all that kind of stuff. So I started looking into it, and my numbers are a bit different than yours. We're on the metric system up here, obviously. I think the RDA up here is really small. It's 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight here, which is, I think it's low if you're a normal sedentary adult.
Well, I'll say also, the I forget which again national organization it is. Yeah, they basically recommend something super low, like 40 grams. Again, in that sense, and that was actually doubled. And again, I was actually just listening to E.C. Sinkowski, because she does go deep into this stuff and she's a big advocate of it. But it used to be like 20 grams was the RDA, recommended daily allowance, or again, like government saying, hey, you guys should get 20 grams. And then they actually doubled it to like 40 grams, which is a big deal. Again, for me, the theoretical here we're talking about from academia that I think is closer to 140. And again, I've kind of tested this stuff. So this is the same thing with like vitamin D's, the baseline or the normal ranges are very different than what we're talking about with optimization, right? So when it comes to slowing down the aging process for somebody who's becoming a master's athlete, but it's a question of, again, that experimentation. And again, I've done this many times, and I'll give a quick story for myself. Was when I was working with James Fitzgerald, something he had me do after the CrossFit season, as I finished competing, was doing a month of no supplements at all. So only get real food. And I just found I was reliant on 30 or 40 grams from supplements of protein. So I went from, at the time, and I was going for 1 gram per pound of body weight. So I was at 180 pounds at the time. I went down to 140 in that month, and I was trying to train somewhat the same. And I just found, and I was like on no coffee either, or I had to double up my coffee. It was just not great. And I just didn't adapt as well with the real food, I guess. So there's that reliance on the supplements. And I mean, they're there, but just like wearing a weight belt, if you're always wearing a weight belt every time you deadlift, you're gonna have trouble when you might have to take that weight belt off. And you might not be creating enough, and you're so reliant on it. Just like a lot of the medications and supplements that we talk about, we try to get a lot of our patients and clients off of. It's a matter of, like healing from within, if you will. But yeah, sorry, I feel like we went on some tangents here. So
I think then it is good to have a number and stick to it and see how it impacts your training. I do believe that there's I think some people go for loads and absolutely tons of protein, and they have a shake after every time they train, or 4 times a day and all that kind of stuff. And I think you don't need to go excess on it. Personally, I supplement with protein, I don't know, maybe once or twice a week, and it's the convenience for me. It's like if I'm not going to be able to eat for the next hour or so, then I'll just can I get that in my body. But for me, carbohydrates are just as important. And I feel that enables my recovery, in terms of wanting to train. If I want to train in an evening and it's like tomorrow morning I'm going to go out and I'm going to train, or I'm going to snowboard all day tomorrow, whatever. It's like, I need my glycogen stores up ahead of time, kind of thing. And I think that for me, that improves my how I feel. I feel sluggish the next day more than the protein. But for me, I think, some people go crazy on it. I've seen people go, you're eating 4 chicken breasts and 8 eggs, and then you're also having 2 protein shakes. And I'm like, dial it down a bit, get more of a balance in there, kind of thing. I think, but in general, and especially as you are older, and again, if there's a takeaway of this that hopefully people can take into, their athletic careers as they get older. About 10% from all the research I read, you need about 10% more of whatever you're aiming for after the age of 40, and even go up a little bit from there. But that's something that's interesting to me. It's maybe that's the 1% for me going forward.
Yeah. Along those lines, again, we have a couple of different pathways we're talking about here of, again, slowing down the aging process for someone who's already relatively healthy and just trying to optimize maybe. By the way, when you put your coffee mug down, it sounds like there's like an avalanche going on. Sorry. That's all right. I will cuddle it
instead. There you go. How's that?
That's all right. You can. It's just every time you put it down, it's like the Inception sound a little bit. To me anyway, but so we're talking about aging, slowing down the aging process, optimizing there a little bit, and to that concept, and Richard coined it right now in the comments, nutrition dependent training, which is a cool, I think, concept, and again, personalizing it for folks, It also brings me to something I try to get to with a lot of my clients of nutrition density or nutrient density, micronutrient density, of, again, and make every calorie worthwhile. So again, some people just focus on these 100-calorie packs of like whatever. Oh, I'm only doing 100 calories, so it's not that bad. But if you can get 100 calories from organ meats, you're getting, or oysters, those are some of the most nutrient dense foods. So when it comes to, again, supplements, which we did mean to come over to and talk about, to me, those are some of the things I work on of caloric density. So if you can get more, and even to the concept of protein sources. So egg whites are very, I would say, pure like protein. They're albumin, right? That's like, they're very much just protein.
Yeah.
Versus, and again, like I said, I eat the whole egg because the yolk is where a lot of that to me is a multivitamin, because there's so many things in the yolk, especially if it's of a high quality chicken. And then the other concept there is on weight loss. So I'm going to jump over to that. So again, when I'm working with somebody who's a bit overweight or over fat, if you will, I try to get them just to focus and shift first on the protein, because it's a simpler thing than counting calories. Again, if you're starting to get those nutrient sources better, they're going to be less hungry from, and again, I think research bears this out time and time again, that increased protein improves your satiety levels, or how hungry you can be and how many cravings you have. And you can go into the amino acids, right? Some people say glutamine specifically is something that can help decrease cravings and improve the gut health and things like that. So you can go down all these paths. We're going to try to keep it, I think, to the big picture a little bit as we before we geek out too much. So moving over to Blonyx. I've heard you on a few podcasts, Barbend and Conquer Athlete and a few other ones. And so I don't know if I've ever heard you actually explain where the name Blonyx comes from.
This has to do with Sex and the City. So this is back to probably about 2011, 10, 11. And I knew I wanted to start I kind of had an agency, a marketing agency before that, that I ran. And I want a product-based business. And I want it to be in the athletic space. It's something that's been a big passion of mine. I'm an exercise physiologist by pure background, other than the kind of sleep science. And so I thought, well, I want, the Nikes out there, the Reeboks and all that kind of stuff, really inspiring companies to me back then. And so I wanted a name that was equally as inspiring. And even though Nike, Adidas, Reebok, they all have meanings behind their names, not many people know what those meanings are. It's just a cool name, that rolls off the tongue, usually 1 to 2 syllables, that kind of thing. And so I was looking for that. And also, obviously, domain names and all that kind of stuff to get it.
Adidas is All Day I Dream About S. That's the...
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yes.
And so I was there, going, trying to think, okay, I need this name. I need something that sticks in my head, that kind of thing. And I was halfway through, the full box set of Sex and the City that I had. And Carrie Bradshaw pulled out a pair of Manolo Blahnik shoes. I think he's an Italian or Dutch designer. Yeah, exactly. And straight away, it just stuck in my head, that name Blonyx. And then the more kind of phonetic way of spelling it came out, and straight away I was on buying the domain names and registering the trademark and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, when people ask me, they're like, "That is completely left field. I didn't see that coming." But that's exactly where it gets. Like, thanks to Carrie Bradshaw.
Wow, very cool. I'm glad to know that the etymology, I guess, of that name. Very cool. So yeah, tell us a little bit. You do your infomercial or what have you on what? Here it goes. You putting it somewhere else? Okay. Coffee mug. That was good. That was silent. So yeah, tell us a little about again. So you guys have the HMB, the egg white protein, which again is a very cool concept. Anything else that you guys want to promote or?
Yeah, we got HMB creatine, the other one, and then we have a beta alanine. But and I know we're going to talk about purpose in a bit. But this comes down to our purpose, like what the concept behind the brand. Being an athlete, obviously I'm an athlete at school, and I also started doing research on supplements back then, and discovered that in the supplement market, like I literally, there's a paper in the Journal of Applied Physiology that I put together, and it was on the products at the time that had been shown to improve strength and muscle mass with training. And it literally came down to two or three. And so I went down to the local GNC, this is in Des Moines, Iowa, to try and find these products. I got there and there were 50 types of creatine at one wall, all sorts of stuff on the other wall that I had no idea what they were. I had just spent the last year researching this stuff, you know, so I kind of left with scratching my head. It's like, how can the industry sell stuff that has no research behind it and make all these claims about it? And that was a day where I kind of lost a bit of faith in the supplement industry kind of thing. So fast forward a number of years, and we're talking about our purpose. The purpose for me behind starting Blonyx, and we've just put out a video on this, like, what is it we really do?
Other than designer shoes.
Other than designer shoes, which is a bit of a side hustle for us now. But I don't know, it's really about going, if you're an athlete and you invest in supplement products, you put trust into those companies that they tested the products, that they following the science, that they know that they work and they're clean. And also they won't, you know, get you testing positive for a drug testing you're doing. And it was about honoring that trust. It's like, if I'm an athlete, what do I want? And so that's what we start, the fundamentals of the company. And the first thing is everything needs to be as simple as possible. People need to understand what's in the product so they can go and do their research on it. You know, I'd much rather if somebody came to me and said, hey, I've been looking for your product because I know all the research on creatine, HMB, beta-alanine, for example. Right. So that's the first thing. Keep it simple. There's not a big ingredient list. So people are like, I don't know what half this stuff is, but someone told me to take it. I don't know. Don't do that. The second one is grounded in science. We don't say science-based. We say grounded. We start from the science. So it's like, I keep folders. Everyone laughs at me at work. I got these folders of all the research studies. I have to print them all out and read them, old school kind of thing. And it's like, I've got one on beta-alanine, you know, all that kind of stuff and all the other stuff that I see out there. And until they get like that big, it's like, okay, now we can look at this serious now on this. And then we build the products from there, which is why we've only got 4. We've only got 4 supplements that we sell. And then also marketing with integrity. Everything that we say, we cannot, if a claim goes out in our marketing that I'm like, there is no research study for that, it comes off. It's out. No, we don't do that. If we're going to say something, it has to have been shown in a research study so that if anyone ever questions us, we go, there is the study that shows that information there. And again, that's about honoring the athletes that we serve kind of thing and doing it that way. So it's a little bit different. We aren't, what I feel about the supplement market is, and it's the way the industry is, what you'll do is you find a contract manufacturer and they will say, yeah, we've got this, we've got all of these pre-workouts, we've got all of these proteins, we got all these, just pick the one you want. You might adjust it a bit. All we need from you is labels and a brand, you know, like
the industry term is white labeling.
Yeah, exactly. White labeling. And I mean, nowadays people don't like to do the exact white label. What they do is they go, well, if I adjust it this way, I feel better about it because it's not white labeling and it's different.
Right.
But it's still
a proprietary blend.
That kind of thing. And it's and that's the way the industry is. And so you see these, every brand looks the same. You know, you see their lineup and it's like, you've all got a collagen protein, you've all got a plant-based protein, you've all got a whey protein now, a pre-workout, a hydrator, and it's like that. And I'm like, this is a lot of that stuff you don't need, you know, and it's all the same. They all look the same. And I'm like, no, let's just focus on actually improving people's performance first. And nail that down and make sure we just have those core products and then, you know, kind of grow from there, build a customer base around that. And it tends to be more serious athletes that we work with now. Yeah.
Jack of all trade, master of none kind of thing where, you know, you guys are focusing on doing those few things really, really well and making sure that, you can stand by each one. And again, as a consumer of supplements for many years and having seen a lot of that, we'll call it BS in the industry. A lot of the labeling of, again, creatine should just be creatine. There shouldn't be anything else. I mean, HMB might improve it because you're talking about same thing with like turmeric. It's been shown that black pepper helps improve absorption of turmeric, right? So, okay, cool. There might be some benefits there. Same thing with HMB, creatine, we can put them together. Now we're talking about something else where, again, some of the research might be behind that, behind on the concept of they haven't done that connection. So some research might show, HMB doesn't do as much as we think, but have you tried combining it with that? And like, it still comes back to, the majority of research is done in college age students because that's just where it's most accessible. University professors tend to be that they're the ones doing a lot of the research.
Mm-hmm.
You have these guys who are willing to, take whatever supplement you want to give them for $20 and, get a few extra beers and pizzas and that's its own thing. So yeah, it's super interesting. And again, as what I was saying is, as a consumer, there are very few brands I trust, and I only really start trusting brands when I think I get to know some of the owners, some of the brands that I use for supplements. Again, I would say, I've known, and so like Nova 3 Labs, I don't know if you know them. I don't think they're a direct competitor necessarily to you because they do a lot of different stuff. But I had worked with Mike Kestely. I don't want to mess up his name, but I worked with him on some nutritional stuff and some adrenal. We talked about cortisol and all that. Like he understands all that stuff, and the formulations that he put together. Again, you never know with human nature. Like if you haven't had dinner and sat across or had a beer with someone, but having spoken with him on a number of occasions, I believe that he's passionate, just like I can hear it coming in across with everything you're saying, of saying like, I really just want to create a product that is going to help, Bo, because Bo's struggling with energy or whatever, and caffeine withdrawal or whatever, cortisol, dysregulation. So here's some herbal stuff. And again, he has proprietary blends. So when I say that, it's not always a bad thing. When they're talking about dealing with stress and giving you some different stuff to deal with stress, but yeah, it's a super interesting concept. I don't want to, drift too far. I do want to get to purpose. So you kind of touched on that purpose, and you guys are talking about I don't know if it's a rebranding or just a reinvestigation of your, looking internally and kind of, if you want to call it a midlife crisis or that of your brand.
Yeah, totally. It's actually a post-COVID crisis.
There you go.
Management, I think, and this actually started in January of 2020, and we actually started the year off really well. We have been doing a lot of work in terms of organizing our company internally, building our staff out, and kind of getting ready to scale to that kind of next level. Doing really well. Launched the egg protein, and getting some traction there as well. And then COVID hit, and at the same time, it wiped out our wholesale business. We were selling to, it's probably around 60% of our sales coming from the CrossFit market and all the CrossFit gyms that shut down overnight,
right,
globally. So we suddenly had this, well, for a start, we had a lot more time on our hands because we couldn't sell to anyone and that kind of thing. And it was a bit of a reassessment. It's like, okay, what do we do here? Well, we need to start focusing online and build our brand that way. We were quite a sales-led organization before that, but then it started to come down to, okay, but what is our identity here? We've got this time, and these discussions that we had, and I think COVID really, and that kind of shock to the system for our company really kind of made us think, what are we doing this for? If we don't have a purpose, and the way I saw it as a business owner is, if we don't have a clear purpose that I can, lead my staff towards, then at times of stress like this and where hard work is needed, we're going to fall flat on our faces. So it's about distilling it down to that, and in many discussions with everybody, and all of us are athletes still, most of us, and everyone has been an athlete in their past at a high level, and we kind of go, what is it we love about what we do? And ultimately, it's about helping other people. So what we say is help as many people as possible achieve their athletic ambition. That is our purpose. Mm-hmm. As many people as we can, with the vision of 5,000 people. We actually have a little equation for this, a little tracker for it. Yeah. To let us know how many people that we've actually helped in a single month. And we want to see that increase and get to 5,000 people in a single month. Yeah. And as soon as we started talking about having that purpose, there was a real spark that just kicked off amongst our staff, and everyone. And we started to talk to our ambassadors about that. And it's like, yeah, you guys do the same, especially the coaches that we had in our ambassador team. It's like, you guys are out there coaching athletes. Why do you do it? You want to see them achieve their athletic ambition in life, and it can be anything. It can be, run an Ironman, go to the CrossFit Games, or it could be just do their first ever 5K, or, right, do Fran and do it at prescribed sort of thing. And it's like seeing what that means to other people and helping them on that journey. And that's what drives us as a company now, as opposed to what it used to be before, which was sales metrics and and ringing a bell kind of every time we got a sale kind of thing like that. And so it's a culture has changed around that purpose, and definitely for me, at a time where it was a bit dark kind of thing, it's really given us that light going forward. And it started now recently. So we've got this campaign that we just kicked off, and there's some, go and check out the videos that we've just put up on our social streams there. And it's about, why do people do it? Why do you do it? Why do you get out there and train? Why do you get up early in the morning and do it and spend so many hours of your day dedicated to this thing, this, physical activity? And it's not only about the places it will take you, it's about the friendships that you'll make and that success that feeling of success, that kind of thing. Right. And I think it's so important to anyone who is an athlete to have that. Yet I'm actually surprised at how many athletes don't have it, and they're like, I'm kind of getting a bit sick of my CrossFit now. I'm a bit sick of this now. And you're losing touch with your purpose. Like, what are you aiming for? Get back into that purpose and you'll get there. And I mentioned this to you the other day, Bo, where it's there's I think it's a little excerpt from a HBO series that came out last year, and it was Shaun White, the Olympic snowboarder, and Phelps as well, and they were talking about depression that hit the day after the Olympics finished, right? The day after, because suddenly they didn't have the purpose that they had for the last 2-3 years kind of thing leading up to it. And what that felt like, that massive, imagine it's like you do nothing else but move in that direction towards the Olympics. You have to give up so much of your life. You don't have pastimes. Your pastime is swimming if you're Phelps, kind of thing. It's like that's what you do. And Matt Fraser, who just retired right now, I'm wondering what he's going through right now. He all of his life went through and did that. It seems
as if he's at least he has a bunch of other things lined up, and it was a very conscious decision. He's retiring on his own terms, as the phrase goes, and I think he's focusing on parenthood. And again, he's now got that Pfizer with the 5 in there as the S. I never know how to pronounce that, but I think he's he's doing the programming now. So I think he's
had to realign his purpose, hasn't he?
Exactly,
and has to have that. It's such a key thing, I think.
The other interesting one there is Tiger Woods. If you've seen that recent HBO documentary Tiger, and he's in the news recently. He just had another car crash, which they have the we can theorize that he's had some chemical substance abuse issues. But again, I think a lot of it had to do with, and that documentary does a really good job of kind of looking at, this is what he was bred to do, basically from the age of diapers. He had a golf club in his hand. So what is it now that he is struggling with his identity? But the other part, when we talked about this before, is Ikigai, the Japanese concept that basically is like, do you have a purpose? And I'll read the exact language, is a reason for being, basically. And we talked about that thing that drives you to get up out of bed. If you're not connected to that, it's just a more difficult life. And so, and if you have that flexibility and freedom, and again, there's that authenticity that eventually comes across, and it's less salesy. So again, you guys could be doing stuff to make more money, but it's saying, no, we're connected with our purpose, and saying, we want to provide the best quality product, and we're only going to focus on these 4 products right now. And if we do have a 5th product, it's going to be because it's connected with our values, our purpose-driven life, as my dog is part of my purpose, and she's playing with a squeaky ball, in case anyone hears that. But
I think coming back to your 1% and how to improve that 1%, I think one thing I started looking at is how do you go and develop your purpose? How do you go and what questions do you ask yourself? And it's really interesting. It's been a really interesting journey, and it goes outside of the company too. And for me, in my athletic career right now, it's like I'm injured right now, but it's about that whole, what is my purpose now with sport and and CrossFit and that kind of stuff. And it's like, I mountain bike. I live in Squamish, BC, which is pretty much the beating heart of mountain biking. So I want to be as good a mountain biker as I can be with the body I have now, and that kind of thing. And it's given me that, like, I'm back training, and I'm back getting out there as much as I as I always did, because there's a bit of a lull, especially with the COVID lockdown kind of stuff. But a really interesting one for me is about family. It's like, what is they're having a young kid and also another kid on the way right now. It's like,
Congrats.
what is our yeah, thank you. What is our family purpose?
Right.
And it's something that my wife and I have actually been focusing on. And I think that especially if you're a business owner, you have such a deep connection with your purpose for your company and what you're doing there, and you can neglect what you have at home. And there's this thing, of entrepreneurs. They say, yeah, I'm on my 6th company and my 6th wife. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
And it's like, focus, get into your family and go, what are we trying to do here? What are our beliefs that we have?
Yeah.
Is it the planet? Is it the environment? Or is it our athletics and keeping fit and healthy? Is it having fun or, active lifestyle? What is it? What is our purpose? And bringing that into the family life too. That's a big thing that has given me this kind of peace inside recently about, I love where my life is going right now. Kind of
awesome. Thing. Yeah, it's amazing to hear. I'll add to that. I guess there's a bunch of different avenues it's making me think of, but one in, again, the whatever you want to call it, better coaching, personal training, fitness space, the concept of asking the 5 whys. So if you say, I want to lose 20 pounds, okay, well, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? And then it goes to, okay, well, yeah, I want to look better on the beach in the summer. Well, okay, why is that? Oh, because I want to attract a better mate because I'm lonely. Okay, well, now we're getting down to it. Oh, because, and, it can take you all the way to this kind of psychology thing where there's blurred lines. And at some point it might be, oh, you do have like an eating disorder, or you do have some trauma that you need to work through. And now we need to refer you to a therapist, a psychotherapist that might be able to help you with that. But yeah, there's a really interesting stuff there. There's also the other concepts of like Simon Sinek's start with why. So, it's making sure, can you boil down why you're doing what you're doing, again, of having a supplement company. Oh, because it's the sexiest thing, but, or this is what's going to make us $1 million. Or is it because, again, for me being a physio, and I've shifted my business to an online model because of this, it gives me a lot more freedom to have these conversations. In the traditional physical therapy model, I'm limited by insurance, by time, by writing notes on everything. And again, at the end of the day, if your knee pain is not getting better incrementally, then we're not. So it has to be about dealing with that symptom. And it's just, is that knee pain getting better? Is that knee pain getting better? I don't have the freedom to even say, let's look at your hips. Let's look at your feet. Like, these are the things that are going to, and it might take us 3 months to do it. But after 3 months, you're going to be so much better off than you would be if we just kept addressing your knee pain for 3 months. If we can really take a step back and connect to the fact, okay, you want to be able to mountain bike, Rowan. So let's take these steps back. Let's assess you and let's figure out the roadmap, and let's make sure we're on the same page of why are we going where we're going? Do we both want to go the same way? Because again, the other analogy I always use is what my assessment is I'm trying to give you a roadmap to drive from Los Angeles to New York City. Now, again, you could do that by taking, the northern route. You can go all the way up to visit Rowan in Vancouver and then go across Canada, or, there's all sorts of ways you could do that. But it's what do we want to get there the fastest way possible? Or do we want to get there the safest way possible? Or do we want to have an amazing experience along the way? So there's all sorts of different ways to look at it. And again, those are things I like having those conversations about whenever I start working with someone. So on any journey that they're going to go on. And again, making sure it's the right journey of, cool, I get that you want to be out of knee pain, but, again, what do you want to do? I'm all for getting you any computer, any algorithm should be able to get you out of knee pain. But, it's a question of, are we connected to that deeper mission? Can we keep checking in on, hey, like, you were able to squat down and play with your kid? Like, that's a whole nother level of success and building on that journey of overall freedom in our movement and all that stuff. So awesome, man. Purpose. And again, the Ikigai that I brought up comes from the Blue Zones, or at least that's where it became a little bit more popular, I think. Blue Zones being this big study, and I call it a study. Again, we talked about research a little bit. It was much more of a casual study, if you will, of again, not really peer reviewed, but again, a pretty extensive look, and again, marketed pretty well, I would say, as kind of like the China study, which is very popular, not really a study. But yeah, the Blue Zones looking at where people tend to live the longest, and they explored a little bit of that. Again, a lot of cherry picking from some of that, but Ikigai, the concept of having a purpose. We talked about, again, someone like Tiger Woods or somebody retiring. They start to play golf as their purpose. They get really into it, but eventually their knee starts to hurt and they can't play as much golf. So, you know, do you have a concept that will keep driving you to live a more, you know, again, deep statement of a more fulfilled life, you know? So yeah, anyway, I think we're starting to go down some philosophical rabbit holes here, but that's great. I appreciate that we can go there. And so, yeah, do you guys, how do you feel on your journey as a company of finding that purpose? Do you feel like you guys are kind of close? You have everyone on board with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great. It's created real alignment. I think that's the main thing. You know, we in the marketing that we do and things like that, and what our social media is. We're just about to kind of embark on a journey with our social media to say, why don't we make this about, rather than it just being about us, which is, you know, it's like promoting our products and who we are kind of thing, actually do align it with our purpose and say our social media should help people achieve their athletic ambition. So we should start putting it, you know, we have some understanding, some science. So you guys are athletes and coaches kind of thing. It's like we have ambassadors that are athletes and coaches. Why don't we just pull this together and get our, you know, like our heads together and say, what can we give to our customers or potential customers or followers that are out there, and actually help them on that journey? And that's what we're starting to do. Literally right now, we are, you know, putting together infographics and videos and all that kind of stuff, and reposting stuff as well, because there's other people who have this same, who align with us in this journey, this purpose that we have. So rather than just kind of put stuff out ourselves, why don't we bring that in? Like you, for example, you're one of the things that you have is as your purpose is aligning with that and thinking, I need to get people back to their athletic best to help them on their journey and to help them achieve their athletic ambitions. And so, you know, we would take your content and go, great, Bo, you're putting out this fantastic content and it's helping people. It would be really valuable to anyone out there who's got knee pain, and get them out of it so they can get back on track on their training. It's that kind of thing. So it's kind of given us, even our marketing, a lot more purpose in that sense. So having a purpose, I think, is as a company is just a great aligner. It brings everyone focused on that one thing. Mm-hmm. And one thing I've noticed in my staff too, we repeat it every Monday. We go, what is our purpose? Everyone repeats it again. What are our core values? That kind of stuff.
Right.
But you see that they start to live it. They start to go, well, we're not going to do that because that's not helping anyone. Right. We're going to do this one. This actually helps people. This doesn't. This is just talking about us. No, forget that. Let's do this instead. So I think it's a real bit. It's given that clarity. It helps me to manage the business as well, because I simply ask that question, and instead of me asking that question in meetings, they ask themselves that question, and I'm like, okay, I don't need to be here anymore, right. You know, that kind of thing. So it really helps with that too. But it's a great energizer, I think.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, we'll wrap it up. We're coming up on that magical hour. I want to be respectful of your time. So tell people where they can find you, more about what you guys are doing, and the Blonyx purpose.
Absolutely. On social, we're everywhere. Blonyx, BLONYX, and website is www.blonyx.com.
Awesome. And go get a pair of shoes.
Manolo. Definitely not Manolo. Blonyx.com. Very different company.
Very different. All right,
will not help you with your athletic ambition.
It might. There's some new training methodology of high heels and all that. Anyway, actually, that funny. I was just driving around and they had the bar method, BARRE. I think there was a stiletto bar, meaning they do the entire bar class in stilettos. So as like, again, a selling thing of either feeling sexier or there's some kind of benefit of doing it in different shoes of high heels, or I don't know. Anyway,
I feel a sponsorship deal coming on.
There you go. Yeah, if you guys want to reach out. All right, so we'll end here. Again, guys, look up Rowan if you want to try out their products. Again, highly recommend sticking to those 4 that they stand by, and they do them better than almost anyone else out there. All right, guys, get 1% better today. Talk to you next time.